Keep going, even when it's hard. There are days when everything feels difficult. Days when you wake up tired before you even start. Days when the thing you're working toward seems so far away that you wonder if you'll ever reach it. Days when you make mistakes, when you feel frustrated, when you question whether all this effort is worth it. If you're learning English, you know these days well. You sit down to study, and the words won't stick in your mind. You try to speak, and the sentences come out wrong. You listen to something in English, and you understand less than you hoped. In those moments, the easiest thing to do is stop, to give up for the day, or maybe forever. But today, I want to talk about something simple but powerful. Keep going, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Because those difficult moments, those days when you want to quit, those are often the most important moments in your journey. Let me tell you something about the nature of growth. Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. We like to imagine that progress looks like a smooth upward slope, getting a little better each day, moving steadily toward our goal. But real progress doesn't work that way. Real progress is messy. Some days you move forward. Some days you feel like you're standing still. Some days you feel like you're going backward. There are plateaus where nothing seems to change no matter how hard you work. There are sudden breakthroughs where everything clicks into place. There are setbacks and struggles and moments of doubt. This isn't a sign that something is wrong. This is just what learning looks like. It's not smooth, it's not easy, but it's real. And the only way through it is to keep going. I want to share a story with you. When I was younger, I decided to train for a long-distance run. I'd never been much of a runner, but I wanted to challenge myself. I started training, and at first, it was exciting. I felt motivated. I felt proud of myself for trying something new. But after a few weeks, the excitement wore off. Running became hard work. My legs hurt. I got tired. I had to wake up early to train, and some mornings I just wanted to stay in bed. There were days when I would go for a run and feel strong, like I could run forever. But there were more days when every step felt heavy, when I wanted to stop after just a few minutes, when I couldn't understand why I was putting myself through this. I remember one morning in particular. It was cold and rainy. My alarm went off, and I lay there thinking of all the reasons I could skip my training that day. It was just one day. It wouldn't matter. I could make it up later. But then I thought about something a coach once told me. He said, "The days when you don't feel like training are the days that matter most." Anyone can train when they feel good. But the people who reach their goals are the ones who train even when they don't feel like it. Those are the days that build character. Those are the days that make the difference. So, I got up. I put on my running clothes. I went outside into the cold rain, and I ran. It wasn't my best run. It wasn't my fastest or my strongest. But I did it. I kept going, even though it was hard. And you know what? That run, that cold, difficult, uncomfortable run, became one of the most important runs in my training. Not because it was special or because I performed well, but because I showed up when I didn't want to. I proved to myself that I could do hard things even when I didn't feel motivated. Every time after that, when I didn't want to train, I remembered that rainy morning. I remembered that I could keep going even when it was hard. And that memory carried me through the rest of my training, all the way to race day. This is true for any kind of learning or growth. The hard days are the days that count. When you study English even though you're tired, that counts. When you practice speaking even though you're nervous, that counts. When you try again after making a mistake, that counts. When you keep showing up day after day even though your progress feels slow, that counts. Every single time you choose to keep going when it would be easier to stop, you're building something important. You're building discipline. You're building resilience. You're building the kind of strength that will serve you not just in learning English, but in every challenge you face in life. But I want to be honest with you about something. Keeping going when it's hard doesn't mean pushing yourself to the point of breaking. It doesn't mean ignoring your needs or forcing yourself to work when you're genuinely exhausted. There's a difference between pushing through difficulty and pushing yourself into burnout. Sometimes the wise thing to do is rest. Sometimes you need to take a break, to let your mind and body recover. That's not quitting. That's taking care of yourself so you can continue later. The key is knowing the difference between needing rest and wanting to avoid difficulty. Needing rest is a physical and emotional reality. Wanting to avoid difficulty is often just fear or discomfort. And discomfort is part of growth. You can't grow without it. So, how do you keep going when things are hard? How do you find the strength to continue when you're tired, frustrated, or discouraged? Let me share some things that have helped me and many others I've known. First, make the next step small. When you're struggling, don't think about the whole journey. Don't think about how far you still have to go. Just think about the next small thing you can do. If studying for an hour feels overwhelming, study for 15 minutes. If practicing a whole conversation feels impossible, practice one sentence. If learning 10 new words feels like too much, learn 3. Small steps are still steps. Small progress is still progress. And sometimes, once you start with something small, you find you can do a little more. But even if you can't, that small step still moves you forward. Second, remember why you started. When things get hard, it's easy to lose sight of your reason for learning. You get caught up in the difficulty of the moment and forget the bigger picture. So remind yourself, why are you learning English? What do you hope it will give you? What will be possible when you improve? Keep that vision in your mind. Write it down where you can see it. Let it pull you forward when your motivation fades. Your why is the anchor that keeps you steady when the waters get rough. Third, be kind to yourself. When you're struggling, it's tempting to be harsh with yourself, to criticize yourself for not being further along, for making mistakes, for finding things difficult. But that harshness doesn't help. It just makes you feel worse, which makes it even harder to keep going. Instead, talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a good friend who was struggling, with encouragement, with patience, with understanding. Tell yourself, this is hard, and that's okay. I'm doing my best. I'm proud of myself for not giving up. That kind of self-compassion doesn't make you weak or lazy. It gives you the emotional strength to keep trying. Fourth, focus on what you can control. You can't control how fast you learn. You can't control whether you have natural talent. You can't control your past or how much time you've lost. But you can control whether you show up today. You can control whether you try. You can control your effort and your attitude. Focus your energy on those things. Let go of the rest. When you focus on what you can control, you feel more empowered and less helpless. Fifth, celebrate small wins. When things are hard, it's easy to only notice what's going wrong, what you didn't understand, what you forgot, what mistakes you made. But if you only focus on that, you'll feel defeated. So intentionally, look for the small victories. Did you understand a word you didn't know before? That's a win. Did you try to speak even though you were nervous? That's a win. Did you study today even though you didn't want to? That's a win. Acknowledge these moments. Be proud of them. They might seem small, but they add up to something big. I want to tell you about another person who kept going when things were hard. Her name was Maria. Maria moved to an English-speaking country when she was 30 years old. She needed to learn English to get a job and build a life in her new home. But learning was incredibly difficult for her. She attended classes, but she felt lost and confused most of the time. She tried to practice with native speakers, but they spoke so fast she couldn't understand them. She applied for jobs, but she couldn't express herself well enough in the interviews. She felt embarrassed and frustrated. She cried many nights, feeling like she would never learn, like she had made a terrible mistake by moving to this new country. But she had 2 young children depending on her. She couldn't give up, so she kept going. Every morning, she would wake up and tell herself, just today, I just have to try today. I don't have to think about tomorrow or next month or next year. I just have to do my best today. And she did. She kept attending classes. She kept practicing. She kept trying to speak, even when it was uncomfortable. She kept applying for jobs, even after many rejections. It was hard. Some days it felt impossible, but she kept going. And slowly, things began to change. She started understanding more in her classes. She started having simple conversations with her neighbors. She got a job, not her dream job, but a job where she could use and improve her English. And as time went on, her confidence grew. Her skills grew. 5 years later, Maria was working in a professional position, speaking English every day, helping other new immigrants navigate the challenges she had faced. When people complimented her English, she would smile and say, "It wasn't talent. It was just that I didn't quit. I kept going even when it was hard." This is the secret that successful people know but don't always talk about. They're not always more talented than everyone else. They're not always smarter or more gifted. But they have one thing that makes all the difference. They keep going when others stop. They keep showing up when others give up. They keep trying when others decide it's too hard. That persistence, that refusal to quit, even in the face of difficulty, that's what separates people who achieve their goals from people who don't. And here's something else important to understand. Every person who has ever learned English well, every person who has ever mastered any skill or achieved any difficult goal has had moments when they wanted to quit, moments when they doubted themselves, moments when it felt too hard. You're not alone in feeling this way. You're not the only one who struggles. The difference is that some people push through those moments and some people don't. And you get to choose which kind of person you'll be. You get to choose whether this hard day, this difficult moment, will be the end of your journey or just another step along the way. I won't lie to you and tell you it will get easy. Some days will always be harder than others. Some parts of learning will always be challenging. But I will tell you this, it gets more manageable. You get stronger. You build capacity. The things that feel impossible today will feel difficult but doable in a few months. The things that feel difficult in a few months will feel routine in a year. You adapt. You grow. Your hard becomes your normal, and then your normal becomes your easy. But only if you keep going through the hard parts. So when you wake up tomorrow or later today and you face that moment where you have to decide whether to study or skip it, whether to practice or avoid it, whether to keep trying or give up, I want you to remember this. Keep going, not because it's easy, not because you feel motivated, not because you're guaranteed to succeed, but because every time you keep going when it's hard, you're becoming the kind of person who doesn't quit. You're building a life where difficult doesn't mean impossible. You're moving towards something better, one hard step at a time. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do everything right. You don't have to feel confident or motivated or excited. You just have to keep going. Keep showing up. Keep trying. Keep moving forward, even if it's just a tiny bit. Because that's how dreams become reality. That's how beginners become fluent. That's how impossible becomes possible. Not through magic or talent or luck, but through the simple, powerful act of not giving up, of keeping going even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And you can do that. I know you can. Keep going. You're doing better than you think.